What's going on, guys? It's Horse Beef here, and I'm bringing you another tier list video. And this one is going to be the greatest and potentially worst trash talkers in UFC history. So as you can see, the very, very top, gift of the gab, and very, very bottom, cut off the mic. So essentially, you understand how this is being weighed up. This isn't the best trash talkers. This is best to worst. So we got the whole spectrum going on here. We do have a pretty extensive list. So this one will be one of those longer ones that y'all in the comment section were asking for after last video. But the first one up, we have my king Peter Yan, and there's just something about broken English, especially Russian trash talk. It's very matter of fact. It's not overly like trash talk. It's more just like matter of fact, I'm gonna murder you type shit. And I actually do love the way that Peter Yan talks trash. But I'm just gonna set the tone here and put Peter Yan in B because he eviscerated Sean O'Malley in the trash talk department despite barely even being able to speak English. He got Aljamain Sterling in the trash talk. Pretty much he wins every trash talk battle he gets into because he's just so cool and just ice cold with the trash talk. Peter Yan, I'm just going to stick him in B because he doesn't say anything overly crazy, but he's just good enough with that broken English and the tone in which he delivers the trash talk. I'm going to put him in B tier. Luke Rockhold, conceive, believe, achieve, man. I'm just going to put him right at cut off the mic. I mean, we all know he isn't the wittiest individual out there, and I'll just leave it at that. Luke Rockhold, conceive, believe, achieve. Followed up by Michael Bisping, man. I might put him right at A tier. He is quick with it, but he is pretty much just like a vulgar trash talker. He isn't very calculated with it, but he is quick with the comebacks. His trash talking against GSP was funny, even though the result didn't go his way. But I'm gonna put Bisping at A tier. I'm contemplating putting him up here at gift of the gab, but I'm just gonna keep him at A tier for now. Nick Diaz, not really much of a trash talker, honestly. His trash talk would usually wind up being quite strange, if I'm being completely honest. Not the best trash talker, so I'm going to put him in C tier. I can't disrespect him that much and put him down here with Luke Rockhold, because he has had some pretty good moments on the mic, like when he called out GSP after beating BJ Penn. But yeah, I'm going to put him at C tier. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, man. Absolute vulgarity on this man. The potty mouth that Stephen Wonderboy Thompson possesses is one for the history books. And honestly, I can't even put him down here because the nice guy trash talk, it's pretty much anti-trash talk. And I respect it. So I'm going to put Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at C tier, even though he does not talk trash. He still does a better job at it than Luke Rockhold with his nice guy demeanor. Ben Askren, I mean, he's goofy, he's corny, yet he still is a decent trash talker. But he's just too goofy and too corny at the end of the day. But he does get under guys' skin. He did get under Masvidal's skin. I don't know, man. Maybe put him in B tier just because he is quite funny, in all honesty. He is a funny dude. I'll put him there with Peter Yan. Peter Yan would eviscerate Ben Askren in a war of words, though, I must say. Conor McGregor, I mean, I'll just put him at the very, very top. It doesn't really take a whole lot of explanation. The man, he didn't exactly like pioneer trash talk, but he made the most money and garnered the most fame off of his trash talk, and he has some incredible moments. I mean, you can go look it up for yourself if you've never heard it before. Conor McGregor's one-liners, he has the most of any fighter in UFC history. I can't think of anyone else who has made it as far as they did based off trash talk. Maybe just Chael Sonnen, because Conor McGregor also did get by off of his skills too. He was obviously a very dangerous fighter, but the trash talk was there too. Of course, I don't have to talk much more about Conor McGregor's mouth. Pause. Then we get into Dustin Poirier. The man's from Louisiana, so he does have a bit of that swagger about him. You know, his delivery. He is quite cool with the way he delivers his trash talk, and he has put together some pretty good lines. You know, the McGregor sleep line, and in all honesty, he destroyed Conor McGregor ahead of that third fight at the press conference and with the trash talkers. You know, Conor was just throwing infantile lines at him and really just drunken rambling while Dustin Poirier would just chill out and then throw a little comeback at him and just tear down everything Conor just said. So I think that Dustin Poirier is pretty underrated trash talk. I'm going to put him in B tier. Aljamain Sterling, you know what? Before he fought Sean O'Malley, at least he was talking shit. At least he was trying to make the fight interesting. I wasn't particularly interested in that fight leading up to it, but Sterling's trash talk got me a little bit more into it. So I will say at least he tries. At least he does try, and he kind of embraces the villain role at times too. So I'm going to put him in C tier. He's not a great trash talker by any means, but at least he gives it a go. And then we have another S tier type pick, man. Dominic Cruz. He is like the Sun Tzu of trash talk. He just gets inside your head, and his cold delivery. I might even put him like ahead of Conor McGregor when it comes to trash talk. I prefer Dominic Cruz's delivery and his style of trash talk. He kind of just speaks matter of fact and frustrates these guys he's fighting, because a lot of these dudes don't have the highest IQs and are CTE ridden. Meanwhile, Dominic Cruz has made a career out of avoiding getting hit in the head. So he's still all there mentally, and when he does get to talking shit, like he absolutely destroyed Cody Garbrandt, even though he lost the fight, and completely picked apart TJ Dillashaw with the trash talk leading up to their fight. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend seeking it out, because it is quite entertaining, and you'll understand that Dominic Cruz is one of the quickest witted guys in UFC history and has some of the most ice cold trash talk of all time, in my opinion. Dricus du Plessis. Now I have to include him on this list because of the trash talk leading up to the Sean Strickland fight. This guy out of nowhere just came out the gates with "your father beat you," and he got under Sean Strickland's skin. It was clearly effective. Like Sean O'Malley made a similar comment to him at that same press conference. At least my dad didn't fuck me. You know what I mean? And Sean just like brushed it off. But then Dricus, with his delivery, with the way that he just came out of nowhere, you could tell he got under Sean Strickland's skin. So maybe it was just a surprise factor, not understanding that, oh shit, Dricus is capable of expressing some malice towards his opponents. I guess there was a bit of surprise there. But Dricus, he's capable. And based off that little sample size, I'm going to stick Dricus du Plessis right in B tier when it comes to trash talk. Cody Garbrandt, just absolutely terrible trash talker. I mean, against Dominic Cruz, somewhat homoerotic with his trash talk, talking about, eat everything you got and all this stuff. And he just ends up making himself sound very stupid every time he opens his mouth, and that's just as far as it goes there. And I believe that him and Luke Rockhold are really one and the same in that regard. So I'm going to put them at the very bottom. If you disagree, I don't know how you can disagree with that. Ilia Topuria, not the best trash talker in the world, shut the fuck up. He just kind of repeats that. This small moments where we've heard him talk shit. Obviously, he destroyed Paddy Pimblett. That's just because Paddy Pimblett is a complete doofus, and he will be on this list later on. But Topuria's trash talking as Volkanovski, I mean, yeah, did it age well? Yes, but was it delivered well? No. I feel like a lot of people were picking Topuria, and then they saw the press conference and started picking against Topuria, and then Topuria ended up coming through with that big knockout. But I feel like his trash talk doesn't do him any favors. But he still is good enough. I just feel like he needs to work on the delivery a little bit. He needs to work on the delivery and work on the one-liners, I would say. But it works for him. It works for the personality. And if he's going to back it up, it does strengthen the trash talk as well. You know what I'm saying? So I'll keep Ilia Topuria in B tier when it comes to trash talk. He isn't great, but he also isn't horrible. But he's not as good as Peter Yan, though. Sean O'Malley, one of the biggest stars in the UFC, cannot talk trash for shit. He actually might be the worst trash talker in the UFC. It's tough, honestly, to put him there. But when it comes to trash talk, Sean O'Malley is the least witty person I've ever listened to speak. His brain seems completely fried by all that weed he smokes. Man, I smoke weed myself, but it just seems like Sean O'Malley's been smoking since he was an infant, because this dude's brain just seems completely fried. He's a great fighter. He does get by off of his skills and skills alone, but every time he opens his mouth, there's no conviction. Even if the audience is filled with his own fans at press conferences, right? He still can't get the crowd going. And he's supposed to be the biggest star in the UFC. I don't buy it. He does himself zero favors. If I was Dana White, I would never put Sean O'Malley on a stage with a microphone. I really would never, because he takes away from his performances whenever he speaks. You know what I mean? So I think for that alone, Sean O'Malley is one of the worst trash talkers of all time. I have to say, he really, really is. Considering he's a high profile star in the UFC, the guy needs to go take some trash talk lessons, maybe read encyclopedias and dictionaries to expand the vernacular and the vocabulary, because as of right now, man, that shit is too limited on Sean O'Malley. Low IQ individual, but great fighter, I must say. Chael Sonnen, he goes right into S tier. Of course he does. I mean, he does recycle a lot of lines, and it is very WWE-esque with the way that he talks trash. But he's just so funny, and his delivery is so good. And honestly, I put him and Dominic Cruz above Conor McGregor when it comes to trash talk. In all honesty, sorry, I burped there. Colby Covington. Now, this is a tough one because I think he's one of the worst trash talkers while also being one of the best because he has his moments, but then he trips over his own words and, delivers iconic lines like, I'm going to take you to the seventh layer of hair, stumbles over his words, and when he does, it is quite embarrassing, and then he stumbles over his words and then initiates very personal trash talk that isn't really warranted. And I feel like when it comes to making fights personal, he does go too far at times. I know like all bets are off when it comes to trash talk and when it comes to war, right? It's all bets are off. You say whatever you want, really. You're about to punch each other in the face, so why make a big deal out of what you say to one another? I get that, but at the same time, he doesn't deliver his lines with enough conviction, especially recently. I feel like recently his trash talk has regressed big time. Like against Usman, it was funny because they did have a good back and forth. But against Leon Edwards, he just went too far, ended up stumbling over his words, and the performance made the trash talk age even worse. So I'm not going to keep him in C tier. I'll say the great moments are balanced out pretty well by the absolute cringe moments where he stumbles over his words. And believe me, guys, I've been a Colby Covington fan. I look forward to his fights, and I especially look forward to his press conferences. But I can't put him above B tier because he stumbles over his words too much, man. He cannot form coherent sentences all the time. Like I don't know. Like the guys at the very top, you rarely see Chael, Dominic, or Connor stumble over their words, even Bisping. But Colby Covington, you can't propel him to the top. You can't say he's an all-time great trash talker because he stumbled a few too many times. Chito Vera says some weird shit, man. Talks about like weirdly like sexual stuff, which is cool, I guess. It is like Mike Tyson style trash talking, but ultimately I don't think he's that great, so I'm gonna put him down here at a C tier. Bilal Muhammad, now this man has the gift of the gab, especially on like Twitter. If this was like Twitter fingers, I would put Bilal maybe at the very top because he is putting out some pretty entertaining shit on Twitter recently. But when it comes to his actual trash talk, I don't know. Bilal has grown on me over time, but I still can't put him anywhere above C tier, so I'm going to put him there. Then we get into Ian Gary, and we saw it, man. Like, when he had the opportunity to talk his shit ahead of that Jeff Neal fight, he kind of crumbled and his voice started cracking. He seemed very nervous, and like he was honestly on the verge of tears. So right then and there, we saw that Ian Gary, whenever he does open his mouth, it's always behind a camera in the safety of his own home. And even then, he does himself no favors with what he says because he just makes himself seem more and more unlikable every time he opens his mouth, and nothing witty to be said. Absolutely nothing. I don't know. Ian Gary is just a goofball. I'm going to put him at the very, very bottom. Paulo Costa, one of my favorite ESL trash talkers, really. Like, for English being his second language, he does have some good one-liners. Twitter fingers, he's all the way up here. But when it comes to actually opening his mouth, like we saw it against Sean Strickland, he was trying his best, but not the greatest. So you know what? He opens his mouth and weird things come out. Incomprehensible things come out. I'm gonna put him at C tier because honestly, like Paulo Costa, like, he is hilarious. We all love Paulo Costa, but we're not talking about him on Twitter, where he has been Portuguese to English translation, on Google and shit. We don't get that version of Paulo Costa at press conferences. He ends up trying to speak English. Credit to him, but ultimately incomprehensive shit comes out. Although it says a lot that he's above those four guys at the very bottom there, considering he can barely even speak English. Frank Mir. Now, this dude was a cold trash talker. The trash talk ahead of the Brock Lesnar fight, yes, it didn't age well, but it was effective. And the confidence in the things that he was saying leading up to that Brock Lesnar fight, I remember that in particular. So I wanted to include him on this list so I could put him at B tier. I do feel like he's a good baseline trash talker. He is someone who just trash talks to begin with, right? So that in and of itself, not everyone in the UFC likes to talk shit. Frank Mir did, though. And you could tell he just had no respect for Brock Lesnar. So as poorly as that shit talk aged, Frank Mir is still a quick-witted individual. So I'll put him at B tier. He was good on the mic. Tony Ferguson, I feel like he almost deserves to be in the same spot because even though he would just rattle off some of the most random shit you're ever going to hear a fighter say, he seemed to get under Khabib's skin. And Khabib's a pretty hard person to get under his skin. He even laughed off a lot of what Conor McGregor was saying. Yet the weird CTE ramblings of Tony Ferguson were getting under Khabib's skin somehow. So I have to respect Tony Ferguson. I'm going to put him in B tier because he's just so strange with the trash talk that it works, man. And Dana White privilege, another line that is absolutely iconic. And completely attributed to Tony Ferguson and Tony Ferguson alone. So I think that propels him into B tier. Leon Edwards, voice crack McGee. I'm sticking right there and then say no more about it. Sean Strickland, is he a good trash talker? Yes. Does he deserve to be up here with Michael Bisping? Dude, I don't even know that he does. Because you know what? To be fair with him, I will have to put Sean Strickland at A tier. Because I would attribute the win against Izzy to the trash talk, but I think it was the whole community just being against Izzy and really attacking him for the whole dog situation, which is disgusting and very embarrassing. Like, if I was Izzy and I was going under that fire on the lead up to that fight, I'm not too sure I would have been at my best in the octagon either. But he does talk shit pretty well. A lot of the time it is like the same stuff being rattled off over and over again, and he ends up just talking about going to war and then ends up not going to war in the actual fight. So really when it comes to just straight up trash talk, he either does that in the last 10 seconds of his fights, or you see him just eviscerating Israel Adesanya. So just based off what we've seen, I like Sean Strickland's trash talk. It's not the wittiest, it's not the most clever, but it is effective, and it does get under his opponent's skin. So I'll put Sean Strickland in A tier. Arguably, he deserves to go down in B tier, though. But he is so matter-of-fact and just so upfront with what he says. Doesn't really mince his words at all, and I do respect that. So I'm going to put him in A tier. He's just a very different type of trash talker than Bisping. He isn't as clever or as witty, but still I think he deserves to be up there in A. John Jones, I'm going to put him in A tier as well. Cold, calculated, the way that he was talking trash to DC ahead of both of their fights just sounded like an assassin. You don't have to like John Jones, but it's really hard to deny that his form of trash talk is on the scarier side, and I respect that a lot. So I'll put John Jones in A tier. Manel Cap, A tier as well. English second language, Portuguese first language. My fellow Portuguese brother, Manel Cap, I have to give him respect for that. But this is non-biased. Here. Manel Cap is a beautiful trash talker. He sunned Israel Adesanya, someone like double his size. Manel Cap made him bend to his will and absolutely destroyed Kara France and the entire City Kickboxing team. So what else can you say, man? Manel Cap is A tier. He's even pushing S tier in all honesty because he's so damn funny and so likable the way I see it, man. Manel Cap's got to be an A tier. Paddy the Batty Pimblett. Hand sanitizer boy. Like, if that's the best that you have to offer when it comes to trash talk, I can't quite put him down here because at least he does talk trash. But for a Brit, right? Like we're supposed to believe that British people are relatively witty, right? Paddy Pimblett cannot be more of the opposite. He's completely dim-witted, but at least he tries. And against Tony Ferguson, like he was a bit colder with the trash talk. He wasn't just rattling off one-liners. He actually was engaging, I think, winning the war of the words. And the fact that he ended up winning that fight is a good look, I guess, even though it was old-ass Tony Ferguson. But still, I do think he improved. So that propels Paddy Pimblett up to C. But the hand sanitizer boy that he was using on Topuria constantly, like he thought that was a good line. It's just crazy to me. It's just crazy that passes as trash talk nowadays. It shows the IQ or the collective IQ of the MMA fan base nowadays. No offense. Jorge Masvidal, he's a relatively good trash talker, although nothing special. I'd say maybe he deserves to be in like B tier level. I mean, it pretty much boiled down to, I'm going to break your face, man. I'm going to break your face. Like, pretty much that's about it. So now that I think about it, maybe he deserves to be like down here in C tier because he really just said the same thing, I'm going to break your face, and then proceeded to not break your face, except for in the case of Ben Askren. But Ben Askren destroyed him in the trash talk department. He really did. So I'm going to put Masvidal at C tier there. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, I feel like he deserves to go right at B tier just because I love, as I said with Peter Yan, I love that Russian trash talk. It's so matter of fact. Even though Khabib only says, I'm going to smash you, I smash this and that. It's repetitive, but it's hilarious. And even his trash talk against Tony Ferguson, he's a stupid guy. He just speaks so matter of fact, and I love it. Even though I'm not the biggest Khabib fan in the world, I always enjoyed listening to Khabib engage with his opponents in the war of words leading up to his fights, just because he was so matter of fact about it, and I love that. Islam Makhachev, going to cover him right away. I feel like he deserves to be in a similar place to Khabib. Honestly, I don't mind Islam's trash talk. There's so much confidence in it, and he always backs it up. So I think Islam deserves to be in B tier when it comes to trash talk. Israel Adesanya, some of the worst one-liners of all time. He's up there with Sean O'Malley when it comes to the worst trash talkers, and Leon Edwards. Man, terrible on the mic, no wit. Like he just kind of, he seems to always be focused on rattling off some like cool, quote unquote cool one-liner that like 12-year-olds find is cool, and then proceeds to like do some like cool gesture, like adjusting his shirt sleeve or whatever. I don't know. There's just something off about Israel Adesanya. Like, he does have this like weird main character syndrome, especially at press conferences. Like, I feel it, and it makes me cringe. And he just has this absolute just cringe energy, this palpable cringiness about him when he opens his mouth, and it's just hard to listen to the man speak. So I believe that he deserves to be at the very bottom of this list. Josh Koscheck. Now, he was a pretty good trash talker. He was a little bit dorky and goofy with it, but I do think at the end of the day, he did get under his opponent's skin. Even though his trash talk wasn't great, and he would oftentimes lose, so his trash talk would age poorly, but he still would piss off his opponents. But I'll put him in B tier, man. Josh Koscheck was a pretty underrated trash talker at the time. Nate Diaz, he got under Conor McGregor's skin with the dork with the ponytail line. I feel like he threw him off with that, and he did pretty well in the war of words leading up to the fight with Conor. They both had their own moments. Does he deserve to be up here, Nate Diaz? Probably not. But I would be lying if I said that I enjoy listening to any single one of these guys more than Nate Diaz, because I really don't. If I'm going to listen to anyone talk at a press conference, it's Nate Diaz, in all honesty. So this is extremely biased, but I love Nate Diaz and I love his trash talk. I'm going to put him at A tier. I think he's an underrated trash talker, in all honesty. Alexander Volkanovski, is he a good trash talker? Yes. The old man Volk shtick was funny. It was effective, although aged poorly, as I've said before in this list. It did age poorly, although I don't really think it matters too much, because the trash talk was effective. And I think he's done a good job. He just doesn't engage in it enough, right? He doesn't get into the trash talk as much as he could. And he is too, kind-hearted about the way that he talks his crap. So I'll put him in C tier, but not because he's a bad trash talker, simply because he doesn't go hard enough in the trash talk department. Quinton Rampage Jackson, he was such a good trash talker. He even got under that guy that he kept calling titties. I forget what his name was, man, but he kept calling him titties, getting under his skin during the Ultimate Fighter season where he was coaching against Rashad Evans, and he was just so good at getting under all of his opponent's skin. So I'm going to put Rampage Jackson in A tier. The guy's absolutely hilarious. Probably one of the funniest fighters to ever compete in MMA. Max Holloway, I don't even know why he's on the list, to be honest. But he does try and talk shit, which is why I have to include him here, because he has tried. Like against Volkanovski, leading into their last fight, he was talking the most shit, leading up to getting absolutely pieced up. Like, ultimately, all of Max Holloway's trash talk ends up being "Let's go, let's go," or if he's fighting in Canada, is the 12th island or whatever the fuck he says. I don't know what he says about Toronto, but like he always says that one island line, and he just ends up going back to his like baseline trash talk lines. So I can't give Max Holloway that much credit, but he does have some pretty good lines here and there. Even on Twitter, I do think that the Twitter fingers on Max Holloway, pretty high level, but when it comes to him actually opening his mouth, I don't know, he does have his moments, though, where he calls out fighters pretty well. Like his call out of Topuria, I'd say propels him from the bottom just to about C tier. Maybe even pushes him close to B, but for now, I'm going to keep him in C tier. Jamal Hill, I'll put him in the same spot because at least he tries. At least he does try. I'm on your ass. That's pretty much all he said to Alex Pereira leading up to their fight. We haven't heard a whole lot of trash talk from him. Aged poorly, as I keep saying, aged poorly, but I can't really weigh that up too much. But I'll just put him at C tier because at least he gives it a go. At least he gives it a go. Stipe Miocic, completely incomprehensible individual. But just to prove a point of how cringy these guys at the bottom of this list are, I'm putting Stipe in C tier, because he can't even speak proper English, yet he's still better on the mic than all of these 6 here at the bottom. So I'm going to have to scroll down now because this list is getting quite large. There you go. Tito Ortiz. That was weird because Tito at one point was a pretty good trash talker, and then the CTE kicked in after all those knockouts against Chuck Liddell and shit like that. I don't know. I want to put him down here, But okay, I have to think about the average here, because he was a good trash talker until he wasn't a good trash talker, and then he became a terrible trash talker. He does tell a pretty captivating Jackal story, I must say. But I still don't think he's as cringy as the ones at the bottom, and there's more entertainment value behind his cringe. So I'm going to put Tito Ortiz at C tier. Henry Cejudo, he runs his mouth pretty well, I'm not going to lie, and his whole cringe shtick is funny. So I'll just put Cejudo right in B tier. I feel like he deserves it. Chimaev, just basic, I'm going to smash you, brother. That's literally all he says. He just says, I smash, and then gets worked up and then starts smashing tables and shit. And I don't know. I feel like he almost deserves to be at the very bottom. So I'm going to put Chimaev at the very bottom. He really only says one thing, I smash. He's more one note with the trash talk than even Khabib and Islam. At least Khabib and Islam get into it more. Chimaev just literally repeats the same shit over and over again. TJ Dillashaw. He's not a very good trash talker. He did do well against Cody Garbrandt, who is a bit of a dum-dum, but then got destroyed by Dominic Cruz, who is at the very top, to be completely fair to TJ Dillashaw. So I guess I'll put Dillashaw here with Tito Ortiz. I feel like they're in similar spots when it comes to trash talk. Daniel Cormier, he is a pretty good trash talker. Like I said about Dustin Poirier, people from Louisiana do have a bit of wit to them. And he is a good trash talker, I will say. He is a good trash talker. He even did pretty well against John Jones, like the crackhead line and all that. Even though I do think that John Jones got the better of the trash talk, he still did hold his own in moments. So I'll put Daniel Cormier in B tier. Ken Shamrock, man, he's going to beat you into the living death. That line right then and there, one of the funniest moments in press conference history, where he throws that line at Tito Ortiz. Tito breaks down laughing. And then Ken Shamrock lashes out, kicking a chair in front of him, which Dana White catches. If you've never witnessed that particular moment, it's one of my favorite moments in press conference history.
I hope to God you come ready, because if you don't, I'm going to beat you into the living death.
So for that reason alone, and he came from the WWE or WWF, whatever it was back then, or WCW, whatever it was at that current point in time. I don't know, that line alone, you might think it's cringy. It's one of my favorite lines of all time, because it's the perfect type of cringe. Ken Shamrock is going to go right in B tier for that reason alone. George St. Pierre. I'm not impressed by your performance. Right, that line right there, one of the iconic call-outs, right, in the history of MMA. You guys have to be honest, as nice as it is, it's so perfectly George St. Pierre in that moment that you cannot hate on it. And I guess Michael Bisping, are you intoxicated? Are you intoxicated? I understand Michael Bisping had funny lines of his own, but I just feel like George St. Pierre's chill, calm demeanor with his hilarious French-Canadian accent propels him. So even though he doesn't talk shit, he is similar to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in that regard. So I'm going to put them side by side right here. George St. Pierre's trash talk is awesome, but in a anti-trash talk type of way. You know what I'm saying? Uriah Faber, I would put him down here, but I feel like he deserves to go in C tier alongside Dillashaw, because he got destroyed by Dominic Cruz as well. But he did have the simulated death line, which is hilarious to me. So I'm going to put him in C tier to be completely fair to him. And then to end off the tier list, we have Kevin Lee. If you were wondering where does Kevin Lee fit into all this, this is where Kevin Lee fits into all this. I'm putting him at C tier. I know his mama's got tickets. You know, like when he got under Michael Chiesa's skin and got Chiesa to latch out. And I'm pretty sure he landed a pretty good shot in Chiesa in that little scuffle they had there too, which is pretty good. But he was thrown for a loop by Tony Ferguson's weirdness. He didn't have responses for Tony Ferguson's strange CT ramblings, though, so he has to get knocked down a peg. And I'm going to keep him at C tier because he was cringe as all hell. And he is a meme now because of his weird trash talk. He sees holes in everyone's game. So for that reason, he's at C tier. And that's the tier list, everyone. Hey, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about my placement of each individual fighter. If you disagree and you want to let me know that you disagree, if you're disgruntled and you want to let me know I'm a casual, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And if you have any ideas for future tier list, please let me know in the comment section below, because if it intrigues me, then I'll push that right to the very top of my priority list. So, as always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.